A few months after divorcing my cheating wife, she emailed me with the subject line, "The truth," and it left me speechless. If you haven't seen the previous parts of this story, make sure to watch those first for full context. The links are in the description below. Let's dive into this part. Hey Reddit. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was about to be dragged deeper into Emily's web of lies. Jake's call was unsettling, he was frantic, as if something was eating at him. Whatever Emily was hiding now, it was serious. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew I had to hear him out. The next day, I met Jake at the same bar where we'd had that uncomfortable conversation. He was already there when I arrived, his face tight with worry. Before I even sat down, he said, "David, I think you need to know the whole story." "What's going on?" I asked, my pulse quickening. Jake looked around, as if he feared someone might overhear. He leaned in closer. "Emily hasn't been completely honest about the pregnancy." I didn't understand. "She lied about the baby's paternity," I said. "What else could there be?" Jake lowered his voice even more. "She didn't get pregnant the way she said she did. The timing doesn't match up." I stared at him, processing his words. "What are you talking about?" He hesitated but then spilled it. Emily had been seeing someone else, someone she hadn't told me about. It wasn't just Jake. There was another guy, someone she'd been secretly sleeping with while still married to me. My heart sank as the pieces fell into place. Emily had lied about the timeline, about the affair with Jake, and now this new revelation made everything feel like one giant betrayal. The child, was she even mine? I couldn't trust anything anymore. I asked Jake how he knew all this. He shook his head, clearly disturbed by the whole situation. "Emily came clean to me about the other guy, she was desperate for me to take her back, but she wasn't willing to admit to you what she'd done." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. This was spiraling into something worse than I'd imagined. The timeline, the secrets, it was all falling apart. Jake then dropped another bombshell. "I think the baby might not even be yours, David." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean?" I think she may have been pregnant with someone else's child before you even got involved," Jake said quietly. "It's all wrong." The room seemed to tilt around me, my mind racing. Had Emily been hiding this from me the whole time? What kind of person could she be to keep all of this from me, all while I was trying to fix my life after everything that happened? I didn't know how much of this I could handle. The weight of these revelations was suffocating, and it left me questioning everything I had believed about my marriage. Jake said he was sorry for what he was about to reveal, but he wanted me to know the full truth. He was certain Emily wasn't being honest about the father of the child. It was all a messy lie, and now it was clear, nothing about my marriage had been real. I needed time to process all this. I didn't know how to move forward, but one thing was clear, Emily had buried herself deeper into deception. And whatever came next, it was going to shake my world to its core. I left the bar in a daze, my head spinning. How could she do this? How could she hide so much from me? The questions flooded my mind as I struggled to keep my footing. But deep down, I knew one thing for certain, I had to face whatever came next. There was no turning back. And the truth, it seemed, was only beginning to unravel. After that last conversation with Jake, everything felt like it was spiraling out of control. The weight of the lies Emily had spun around me for months, maybe even years, left me numb. How was I supposed to piece my life back together with so much uncertainty? There was still so much I didn't know. The next few days were a blur. I barely slept or ate, consumed by everything that had come to light. I spent most of my time alone, trying to make sense of the mess. Every time I thought I had a handle on things, another question would pop up, more unsettling than the last. I tried to call Emily, but she avoided my calls. It was clear she didn't want to face me, not with all the lies coming to the surface. Every time I thought about confronting her, a knot formed in my stomach. What would I even say? How could I possibly look at her the same way again? But then, something happened. Late one evening, as I sat in the silence of my apartment, my phone buzzed. It was Emily, her name flashing on the screen. I almost didn't answer. But I couldn't help myself. When I picked up, she sounded frantic, almost desperate. "David, I need to talk to you." I felt a surge of anger, but I kept my voice steady. "Now? After everything you've done? Please, just hear me out," she begged. I didn't want to, but something in her voice, something I couldn't quite explain, pulled me in. "Fine," I said, my voice cold. "We'll talk." We arranged to meet at a small park near my place. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I had to hear her side of the story. When I saw her, she looked different. Her usual confident demeanor was gone. She looked like a woman who had been broken by her own lies, as if she was crumbling under the weight of everything she had done. We sat on a bench, and Emily wasted no time. "I know you've heard a lot of things, David," she began, her voice shaking. "But I need you to understand that I never wanted to hurt you." I wasn't sure I could believe her anymore. "You hurt me more than I thought was possible," I replied, my voice low. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I made so many mistakes. I wanted to feel sympathy. But I couldn't. The pain was too fresh, the betrayal too deep. I don't know how to fix this," Emily continued, her voice faltering. "But I need you to know that I didn't want any of this." I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. I didn't know what she expected from me, an apology, maybe? A second chance? But I had already given her too much of my trust. "You've made it impossible for me to trust you again," I said bluntly. "I don't know what you want from me." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she looked away, unable to meet my gaze. Then, she took a deep breath. "There's one more thing," she said quietly. I froze. "What now?" "I found out that the child isn't Jake's either." My mind went blank. "What do you mean?" I managed to ask. She looked down at her hands, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been hiding it from everyone, even from myself, but I don't know how to explain it. The father isn't Jake. And it isn't you." The words didn't make sense. Was she lying again? I didn't know what to believe anymore. "You need to tell me what's going on," I said, my voice growing more desperate. "I don't know who the father is," she confessed, her voice trembling. I was stunned. Emily didn't know? She had been lying to both me and Jake about the father of her child? How could she not know? "I don't understand," I said, my voice thick with disbelief. "If you don't know, then who does?" She shook her head. "I don't remember everything. I was drunk. I don't know how to explain it. It was too much." My mind was spinning. I didn't know what to do with this new bombshell. I stood up, suddenly unable to stay in the same space as her. This wasn't just a betrayal anymore, it was a complete unraveling of everything I thought I knew. "I have to go," I said. I didn't wait for a response. I walked away, my thoughts in chaos. For the next few days, I didn't contact Emily. I couldn't. There was nothing left to say, and the lies had left me feeling hollow. What was the point of trying to salvage something that had never been real? I focused on my own healing, trying to move forward from the wreckage. The child, though still mine, was part of a world I didn't belong to anymore. And Emily's lies had ensured I could never return to the person I was before all of this began. I filed for full custody of the child, as heartbreaking as it was to accept. The situation was far from ideal, but it was the only choice I had left. And as I looked ahead, I realized one thing: no matter how many truths came to light, I would never let my daughter grow up in the shadow of Emily's lies. The truth, in the end, didn't bring closure. It just opened more wounds. But now, at least, I was free of her. And though the journey ahead would be difficult, it was one I would face alone.